Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. So we are, if you recall, we're in the middle of a letter from Holy Mother to Nivedita. This says, my dear, love to you and blessings and prayers for your spiritual growth. You are doing excellent work indeed. But do not forget your Bengali, else I will not be able to understand you when you come back. It gave me such a delight to learn that you are speaking of Dhruva, Savitri, Sita, Rama, and so on there. The accounts of their holy lives are better than all the vain talk of the world, I am sure. Oh, how beautiful are the name and doings of the Lord. Yours, Mother. Oh, how beautiful are the name and doings of the Lord. Yours, Mother. Holy Mother bestowed her grace on Nivedita and remarked, her outside is white, meaning her skin, and her inside is white, meaning pure. Nivedita wrote about Holy Mother. The mother can read, and much of her time is passed with her Ramayana, but she does not write. Yet it is not to be supposed that she is an uneducated woman. It must be remembered that as the wife of Sri Ramakrishna, she had the highest opportunity of personal development that is possible to enjoy. At every moment, she bears unconscious witness to this association with the great. But in nothing, perhaps, does it speak more loudly than in her instant power to penetrate a new religious feeling or idea. And this, of course, has been said and written of Mother so many times. People would come to her with things that were seemingly novel, different, so on. And she would go right to the heart of the matter. And in nothing, perhaps, does it speak more loudly than in her instant power to penetrate a new religious feeling or idea. I first realized this gift in Holy Mother on the occasion of a visit that she paid us in recent years on the afternoon of a certain Easter day. Before that, probably, I had always been too much absorbed when with her in striving to learn what she represented, to think of observing her in the contrary position. On this particular occasion, however, after going over our whole house, the mother and her party expressed a desire to rest in the chapel and hear something of the meaning of Christian festival. Remember, we're at Easter time. This was followed by Easter music and singing with our small French organ. And in the swiftness of her comprehension and the depth of her sympathy with these resurrection hymns, unimpeded by any foreignness or unfamiliarity with them. We saw revealed for the first time one of the most impressive aspects of the great religious culture of Sarada Devi. The same power is seen to a certain extent in all the women about her who were touched by the hand of Sri Ramakrishna. But in her, it has all the strength and certainty of someone high and arduous, of some high and arduous form of scholarship. The same trait came out again one evening when, in the midst of her little circle, Holy Mother asked Christine and myself to describe to her a European wedding. With much fun and laughter, personating now the Christian Brahmin and again the bride and bridegroom. So again, with much fun and laughter, personating now the Christian Brahmin, and again the bride and bridegroom, we complied. But we were neither of us prepared for the effect of the marriage vow. For better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, were words that drew exclamations of delight from all about us. But none appreciated them as did the mother. Again and again, she had them repeated to her. Oh, the dharmi words, the righteous words, she said. And indeed they are. Holy Mother treasured anything that Nivedita gave her. Once Nivedita gave Holy Mother a small German silver box in which she kept locks, cuttings of Sri Ramakrishna's hair. She used to say, whenever I look at the box at the time of worship, I am reminded of Nivedita. In one of her trunks, Holy Mother kept an old tattered silk scarf that her attendant wanted to throw away. No, child, she said. Nivedita gave it to me with great love. Let us preserve it. She then took the scarf in her hand, scattered black cumin seeds in its folds as a preservative, and laid it carefully back in the trunk. She remarked, the very sight of the scarf reminds me of Nivedita. What a wonderful girl she was. At first, she could not speak to me directly, and the boys acted as interpreters. Later, she picked up the Bengali language. She loved my mother very much. She loved my mother. One day, Nivedita said to Shamasundari, Grandma, I shall go to your village and cook in your kitchen. The old lady replied at once. Shamasundari, of course, was Holy Mother's mother. I shall go to your village and cook in your kitchen. The old lady replied at once, no, my child, you must not do that. Our people will ostracize me if you enter my kitchen. There was that old India that Sarada Devi was not a prisoner to. In the village, it's true that people would have been very harsh with Shamasundari if she had allowed a Western woman to enter her kitchen. Because it would have, in their minds, it would of course have polluted it, not understanding who Nivedita was. Nivedita had penetrating eyes, a brilliant mind, indomitable energy, and deep spirituality. She observed that although Holy Mother had no formal education, her dealings with people and teachings were beautiful, Catholic, that is to say, not confined. They don't mean Catholic like Catholic Church, not confined to one dogma. her dealings with people and teachings were beautiful, Catholic, practical, and appealing. Holy Mother's divine love and affection, strong common sense, and sweet personality captivated her. Nivedita wrote, "To me, it has always appeared that she is Sri Ramakrishna's final word as to the ideal of Indian womanhood. But is she the last of an old order or the beginning of a new? In one of her sees, in her one sees, realize that wisdom and sweetness to which the simplest of women may attain." By simplest, Nivedita meant uneducated, not schooled in social ways. In her, one sees realized that wisdom and sweetness to which the simplest of women may attain. And yet to myself, in the stateliness, the stateliness of her courtesy and her great open mind are almost as wonderful as her sainthood. I have never known her hesitate in giving utterance to large and generous judgment, however new or complex might be the question put before her. Her life is one long stillness of prayer. Her whole experience is of theocratic civilization, yet she rises to the height of every situation. Is she tortured by the perversity of any about her? Is she tortured by the perversity of any about her? Now, of course, Nivedita was making a reference to Holy Mother's niece and the niece's mother. These people and others, her own brothers, Holy Mother's brothers, could be very difficult indeed. This is characterized as perversity by Nivedita. The only sign is a strange quiet and intensity that comes upon her. Does one carry to her some perplexity or mortification born of social developments beyond her ken? Does one carry to her some perplexity or mortification born of social developments beyond her ken, but that is beyond her, what she has normally been exposed to? With unerring intuition, she goes straight to the heart of the matter and sees the questioner in the true attitude and sets the question. She goes straight to the heart of the matter and sets the questioner in the true attitude to the difficulty. When Nivedita died in Darjeeling on 13 October 1911, this was 9 years before Mother died. When Nivedita died in Darjeeling on 13 October 1911, Holy Mother shed tears and said, "What sincere devotion Nivedita had. She never considered anything too much that she might do for me. She often came to me at night. Seeing that the light struck my eyes, she put a shade of paper around the lamp. She would prostrate herself before me with great tenderness and take the dust of my feet with her handkerchief. I felt that she hesitated even to touch my feet." As the women devotees expressed their sorrow at Nivedita's death, Holy Mother said, "All creatures weep for a great soul." Yes, Nivedita left quite early. I don't remember what her age was, but she was still quite young. All creatures weep for a great soul. And when Mother says all creatures, we can take this seriously. She doesn't, the whole universe, the whole of that which breathes, weeps for a great soul. A few days after Nivedita's death, Sister Christine and Sister Sudhira, a co-worker, came to see Holy Mother from Nivedita's school. Remembering the close relationship between Nivedita and Christine, Holy Mother said to Sudhira, they lived together. Now it will be hard for her to live alone. She then consoled Christine. Our hearts are crying for her, and undoubtedly your feeling will be more intense, my child. What a wonderful person she was. So many people are now crying for her. So many people are now crying for her. Saying so, Holy Mother wept. She then asked Christine about the activities of the school. One day, the mother was resting on her bed, and several women devotees were near her. Someone began to talk about Jesus Christ. Someone began to talk about Jesus Christ. The mother got up and saluted Lord Jesus with folded hands. She then said, I heard many things about Jesus Christ from Nivedita. She read many beautiful stories about him to me. Jesus came to deliver people in this world, and how much suffering he had to undergo. He joyfully endured it all. Despite all those persecutions, he loved people and forgave them unconditionally. His own disciple betrayed him. They killed him with nails in his hands, feet, and chest. In spite of that terrible torture and pain, he ungrudgingly forgave them. If you remember, Christ's words on the cross were, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. That's what she's referring to. In spite of that terrible torture and pain, he ungrudgingly forgave them. He prayed to God not to take offense at what they did. Is it possible for human beings to have such love, power of forbearance and forgiveness? Who can endure this way other than God? So Holy Mother was affirming the divinity of Christ. Who can endure this way other than God? God came as Jesus to teach divine love to the people of the world. Look at Nivedita, a Western girl who came to our country and worked happily, forbearing insults and harassment, and also enduring so much discomfort. She tried to educate our children. When she visited some homes to register their children for her school, she was humiliated. Some did not allow her to go inside their homes, and some allowed her to go inside, but later purified the place by sprinkling Ganges water. She saw everything, but did not mind. She left each place with a smiling face. There was no bounden necessity for her to educate the girls of our country by enduring such insults and ill treatment and ruining her life little by little. Of course, the thing for us to understand is that Nivedita was following the instructions of her master, of her guru. If you read her writings, you'll find that the reason that she undertook all this work was she was asked to by Vivekananda. He trained her for it. He encouraged her in it. He encouraged his Western disciples to support her in it. And so Nivedita did that work, and she did that work right up until her death. So Mother goes on, you see, my daughter Nivedita had such a wonderful mind that she took on the responsibility of teaching our girls on her own shoulders because her guru Naren wanted it and asked her to do it. She did not care for physical suffering and discomfort or for the insults and incivility of our people. Those for whom she dedicated her life, they treated her contemptuously. Under such circumstances, could the women of our country sacrifice to such a great extent for the sake of their guru? They would say, we don't care. So I say that except for the master, no one knows or understands how, when, what, or through whom he makes one work. So that's the end of the subchapter on Nivedita. Is there anything that anyone would like to say or contribute or ask about what's been read so far? We're just a little less than the halfway through the hour, so we have plenty of time. Anything at all that anyone want to ask or say?
Shankaraji,
I just Googled, Sister Nivedita was 43 years old when she passed away.
Thank you, dear. 43 only. So Swamiji at 39, Nivedita at 43. Thank you, dear. 43. But you know, they lived intense lives. They accomplished so much in such a short time. Anything else? Yes, Balaji.
In one of the sentences, it says, her whole experience is of theocratic civilization. What does it mean, really?
It was about Holy Mother that she was speaking.
Yes.
India has been a theocratic civilization. That is to say, the Brahmins, sometimes very actually and sometimes nominally, but they are the ones who are the leaders, and the Kshatriyas are the kings and the administrators and so on. But it's the Brahmins who are the most important leaders of India. So it is a theocracy.
So it came from the word aristocracy?
No, theocracy.
I know, but the...
Theo, God. Theocratic
I see.
means God-driven, God-led. There are people here in the United States who very much want to make this a theocratic society. They are primarily the fundamentalist Christians, and they want to run things according to how they see the world and make sure that everyone toes that line, and just like the Mughals, when they came to India, said you have to convert. You have to, and so you have to say these words that you're a Muslim. Well, that was a different kind of theocracy. The Muslim countries, except for those that are nominally more democratic, are theocratic. So theo is a word for God. Theo. So theocratic means God-driven, God-run, God-managed. We're democratic, nominally, which means that the people run, the demos, the people run the society, of the people, by the people, for the people. That's the nominal. So in a theocratic society, which India has been traditionally, that is to say, led by the Brahmins. Very good question, Balakrishna. And that definitely was the case in village India, the village India that Mother was raised in.
Yes.
Good comment, good question. Anyone else? Well, thanks for that, you two. 43. Only 43. Okay, there was another important woman devotee that was close to Holy Mother. And we're about to hear about her. Devamata was also very close to Raja Maharaj, Swami Brahmananda. Holy Mother and Sister Devamata. Laura F. Glenn heard Swami Vivekananda's lectures in New York and became a great devotee of Vedanta. She edited Swami Vivekananda's inspired talks. This is quite a thing to say about someone. She edited Swami Vivekananda's inspired talks, which Swamiji delivered at Thousand Island Park, and Ellen Waldo recorded. Now, when they say recorded, she took them down in a form of shorthand that was popular in 1895 when Swamiji gave these talks. Ellen Waldo took them down. Years later, Devamata, or Laura Glenn, years later, she became a nun and joined the Vedanta Center of Boston, where she took vows from Swami Paramananda and became Sister Devamata. Now, at that time, the Swamis were giving vows more widely than now. Now, only Hollywood and San Francisco are still making Ramakrishna order nuns. Paramananda did that, and we'll hear the story, probably part of the story, about how all that turned out. So she took vows from Paramananda and became Sister Devamata. She visited India in 1909 and met Holy Mother in Calcutta many times. In her book, Days in an Indian Monastery, she wrote her memoirs of Holy Mother. Holy Mother was very fond of Devamata and later dictated many letters to her. Devamata wrote, "We had no common language, but when there was none to interpret for us, she spoke that deeper, wordless language, and we never failed to understand each other." Now, we need to understand this is not just some casual remark. When there was no one to interpret for us, Holy Mother spoke that deeper, wordless language, and we never failed to understand one another. Devamata stayed with Nivedita and Christine, but she visited Holy Mother every day. So when she was in Calcutta, she stayed with Nivedita and Christine, but she visited Holy Mother every day. When Holy Mother blessed Devamata for the first time, Devamata recounted her experience. A spring of new life seemed to bubble up from my innermost heart and flood my being. And this is what Sri Ramakrishna says exists in all of us, is this artesian spring of spiritual wisdom, bliss, and existence, Satchidananda. If you remember, Sri Ramakrishna told the story of coming to a garden, visiting a garden house and going to the garden and seeing a trickle of water coming out from a pile of rocks. And as the rocks were removed one by one, more and more water came out until when the last rocks were removed, an artesian spring gushed forth. Well, the rocks, of course, are our ignorance, our upadis. So what Mother was doing here for Devamata, I'll read this again. What Mother was doing for Devamata was taking away those impediments. This is the grace. This is the grace of the divine beings. How great was thy sacrifice? All thine austerities were practiced for our sake. You've come to unchain us and set us free. So we must keep in mind that this is not something that just happened then. This is available to us now. When we notice it said, Devamata visited Holy Mother every day. That's not something to just let slide by. When Holy Mother blessed Devamata for the first time, Devamata recounted her experience. A spring of new life seemed to bubble up from my innermost heart and flood my being. Yes. Holy Mother released that artesian spring of Satchidananda with her. By her blessing, she removed the impediments, the upadis, the ignorance. One day a desire flashed in her mind to render Holy Mother personal service by stroking her feet. Immediately, Holy Mother motioned to Devamata to come near her. In other words, this is that wordless language that she spoke of. So I'll read that again. One day, a desire flashed in Devamata's mind to render Holy Mother personal service by stroking her feet. Immediately, Holy Mother motioned to Devamata to come near her and allowed her to massage her feet because she had arthritis. Devamata wrote, Mother took me into her daily life at once and gave me the privilege of caring for her rooms. Every morning, I came early to her, made her bed, and put everything in order. In doing it, I observed that the 5 large French windows opening on the front veranda were blurred with paint and putty. In other words, they hadn't been installed very well. I observed that the 5 large French windows opening on the front veranda were blurred with paint and putty. They always stood open, and evidently no one had noticed it. One morning, I brought with me some clean clothes and a cake of Monkey brand soap, the Indian substitute for Bonami. I don't know if you all know Bonami, but it's been in existence for a long time. It's a scrubbing powder that comes in a can. It's the French words for good friend, bon ami. Monkey brand soap, the Indian substitute for bon ami, and gave the panes of glass a good polishing. Mother was overjoyed when she saw them. And that day, whenever a visitor came, she insisted on having a window closed to show how clear and shining the glass was. How the divine being rejoices when we notice what needs to be done and we do it. I'm going to read that story again. This is instruction for us. Mother took me into her daily life and gave me the privilege of caring for her rooms. Every morning I came early to her, made her bed, and put everything in order. In doing it, I observed that the 5 large French windows opening on the front veranda were blurred with paint and putty. They always stood open, and evidently no one had noticed it. One morning, I brought with me some clean cloths and a cake of monkey brand soap, the Indian substitute for bonami, and gave the panes of glass a good polishing. Mother was overjoyed when she saw them, and that day, whenever a visitor came, she insisted on having a window closed to show how clear and shining the glass was. Here is an excerpt from Devamata's memoir. Innumerable were the devotees who gathered at Holy Mother's feet to crave her blessings and learn of her. She herself told me that when she was in her village, she would be wakened frequently at 2 or 3 in the morning by eager pilgrims. She herself told me that when she was in Jairambati, she would be awakened frequently at 2 or 3 in the morning by eager pilgrims who, not daring to cross the long stretch of unshaded fields under the scorching heat of the sun, made the journey after nightfall, thus arriving very late. Most often, they were personally unknown to her, to Holy Mother. But always it was her custom to rise, prepare food for them with her own hands, and then send them to rest in the guest house, built by a village disciple for the use of her devotees. Imagine, Holy Mother's asleep, it's 2 or 3 in the morning, some pilgrims show up. She doesn't put them in the care of some brahmachari that's there to take care of her and say, show them to the guest house, I'll see them in the morning. No. She gets up at 2 or 3 in the morning, prepares food, serves them with her own hands, and when they're fed and cared for, then she shows them to the guest house. Also in Calcutta, nearly every day brought some group of devout pilgrims to pay their homage. It mattered not whence they came. Geographical boundaries, caste, or creed did not exist for her. They are all my children. Mother would say this when she was challenged by anyone because of all of these things that were part of old India that she was not paying attention to. She would say, never mind, they are all my children. Geographical boundaries, caste, or creed did not exist for her. The same tender welcome awaited all who sought her, whether from east or west. All alike were her children. Hers was an all-embracing mother heart, which, now, let's just know that this has not gone anywhere. Mother is just as alive today as she was at the time this is written. Ask and ye shall receive. Her mother said, remember when you are in distress, remember you have a mother. Hers was an all-embracing mother heart, which wrapped itself in love about every child born of woman, and her family was the human race. At the time when I came, Mother was living in a new dwelling given her by the devoted followers of Sri Ramakrishna. This was the Udbodhan house she's speaking of. It was built by Swami Chetanananda for her. She was living in a new dwelling given her by the devoted followers of Sri Ramakrishna. She occupied the upper floor with the few women disciples who were always with her. She lived as they did, performing the same homely tasks, making no effort to differentiate herself from others, save by greater modesty. She made no effort to differentiate herself from others, save by greater modesty, greater gentleness, and humility. I remember one day seeing her bow in deepest reverence before a rustic Brahmin who had come to see her because he chanced to be a village guru or spiritual teacher. By her outward manner, she was the most obscure of the household. By Holy Mother's outward manner, she was the most obscure of the household. But beneath the veil of simplicity which enveloped her, there was a lofty majesty of bearing which caught the heart and bowed it in prayerful homage at her feet. A lofty majesty of bearing which caught the heart and bowed it in prayerful homage at her feet. The human covering was too thin to hide the radiance of divine consciousness beneath. She never taught, seldom ever counseled. She merely lived. Now, there are books full of Mother's teachings. So Deva Mata, she wasn't misspeaking here. It's just that her experience of Mother wasn't the entire experience of Mother. People, particularly women, would come to Mother, both in Jairambati and Calcutta, and she would counsel them, and she would teach them, and she would give them guidance. Sometimes guidance much at variance with the culture of the time. But this is what Deva Mata experienced. She never taught, seldom ever counseled. She merely lived. And who can tell how many lives were cleansed and exalted by that holy living? A gentle cheerfulness was there. A gentle cheerfulness there was about her always, and a lurking sense of humor. This is something, listen up, Mother was funny. And a lurking sense of humor which made it possible to talk to her of anything. The smallest concern was of interest to her, and she could lose herself in childish play with as much zest as the little piece of the little niece. I'm sorry. My eyesight is just at the edge here. She could lose herself in childish play with as much zest as the little niece of 8, Radu by name, who lived with her. I can still see her keen amusement over a jack-in-the-box, which I brought for the little niece from an English shop. You may not know what a jack-in-the-box is. It's concealed, and the box is closed. It doesn't look like anything at all, but you turn a crank on the side, and it goes dun 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 dun, and at that it opens and the jack-in-the-box springs out, like that. Each time it sprang out with the familiar squeak, she would repeat the sound, laughing heartily. Another day when I came in, I found her engaged in stringing little glass beads, and Radu exclaimed, "My baby Krishna has no jewels, as the images in the temple have." Another day when I came in, I found her engaged in stringing little glass beads, and Radu explained, "My baby Krishna has no jewels, as the images in the temple have." There was no mockery of play in the mother's manner. Even this little toy was a sacred symbol of divinity, and she decked it with the same grave devotion as a devout nun might dress the baby Jesus for a Christmas creche. Now, I don't know if you can grasp that image. At Christmas, the nuns take the attitude that each of them is the mother of Christ. Each of these nuns. At other times, they think of themselves as the bride of Christ. But at Christmas, they think of themselves as Mary, as the mother of Christ. And the devout ones, the ones who are in this mood, I have seen these beautiful creches that they make, these beautiful little manger scenes that they make. It's really something. They really, and it isn't competitive or, each one is just doing their thing. It's very beautiful. She decked it with the same grave devotion as a devout nun might dress the baby Jesus for a Christmas creche. Those who had the rare blessing of living with the Holy Mother learned that religion was a sweet, natural, joyous thing, that purity and holiness were tangible realities, that the odor of sanctity was literally a sweet perfume overlaying and destroying the foulness of material selfishness. I'm going to read that again. Devamata was really good. Saraswati sat on her tongue, didn't she? Those who had the rare blessing of living with the Holy Mother learned that religion was a sweet, natural, joyous thing, that purity and holiness were tangible realities, that the odor of sanctity was literally a sweet perfume overlaying and destroying the foulness of material selfishness. Compassion, devotion, God union were her very nature. One scarcely knew that she possessed them. It was through the soothing benediction of a word or touch that one sensed their presence. Such lives are like the lake or river. The sun may draw up its waters, but they fill again to refresh the earth. So these saintly ones in body may be lifted from our sight, but their holy influence falls back upon us to revive our fainting hearts and give us new spiritual life, new strength of purpose. There's just a few minutes before 9. Once again, is there anything anyone would like to say or ask? Any comments, any questions? Anything, and just any reactions to this wonderful, wonderful description and evocation of Holy Mother by Devamata?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear Kat.
if I understand correctly, Holy Mother still does that even yet today, even though she's not in the bodily form.
That's exactly what Devamata just said. Though they may be lifted from our sight, their holy influence falls back upon us. So yes, and so was there a question or?
No, I was saying okay. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. It is Thakur Ma. I'll just say this forthrightly. Thakur Ma are as present to us as we want them to be. If you seek their company, if you believe in their presence, and you continue and continue and continue, what happens is a relationship forms. You feel it. As Swami Prabhupada said, you feel the living presence. So they are as real to us, as real for us, as we want them to be. They will never force themselves on us, and not even by any stretch of imagination. They'll never force themselves on us. But if our heart is open and we invite them, as the evening prayer says, fill our hearts full of love for thee. Ask and ye shall receive. Anyone else?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, Swayam.
that framed picture of Holy Mother that's right outside our the shrine at our Vedanta Center.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that taken?
Jairambati. That was taken on the porch of her house in Jairambati. You can get copies of that picture from St. Louis.
Okay.
Just go to their bookshop and look for the pictures.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you remember, Dhruva gave us a beautiful talk before one of Holy Mother's pujas. He gave us a beautiful talk about the way Mother's hands are held. And he said, it is a bird's nest for our soul. It is a resting place for the fledgling bird of our soul. Just look at the way her hands are held. Dhruva really, I mean, I think you can find that online actually, that talk. I think we managed to record that.
I will look for it, Brother Shankar. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So there are very few pictures of Holy Mother taken, I think. The one which is in the normal meditation position and one at Jairam Bhati, and there are, I don't think there are
I
many.
think, Sham, there are about a dozen pictures of Mother. I think there are more than just three, the three that you mentioned. I think there are about a dozen pictures of Mother. I'll have to get, I'm reading from the Kindle edition of this book for us. I'll have to get out my copy and look through, but all of the pictures that exist of Holy Mother are in Swami Chetanananda's book. And I think there are 10 or a dozen, something like that number. There are several that were taken with Nivedita and the other Western women devotees. I don't know that there's one with Devamata or not. I haven't seen it. Usually they're in this Kindle edition, of course, but I just skip by them. There are very few pictures of the Master, but I think there's a number of pictures of the Mother.
Okay, thank you.
In a number of settings. Again, you can go to St. Louis. Go to the St. Louis Center's website, the Vedanta Society of St. Louis, and go to their bookshop. And they sell a great variety of pictures.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
A few more pictures in the book.
Yes. There's quite a few
Also
pictures.
taken by Nivedita.
Say it again.
I said she had pictures taken, with Nivedita.
Yes, well, Nivedita had the pictures taken with Mother, yes. Mother never asked for any pictures to be taken, but other people would ask and she would give permission.
Shankaraji, these two people, Lara Glenn and Ellen Waldo, are the two people that come to the Thousand Islands starting from the Detroit or someplace. They were driving the car, they had a lot of trouble, and they reached the Thousand Islands at the midnight. Is that these two?
No,
Somebody
no,
else?
no, no. They were with Swamiji in 1895 there.
Oh, okay.
No, not Laura Glenn. Laura Glenn wasn't, but Ellen Waldo was. And I believe they all went there by train and then boat. You get to Thousand Island Park still by a ferry boat. It's on an island. And but I don't think Laura Glenn or Devamata drove there. Certainly Ellen Waldo didn't. I don't know who you're speaking of, Balakrishna ji.
I forgot.
Anybody else?
Is that the Thousand Island Park place where Swamiji went into Nirvikalpa Samadhi?
Yes. That's in June of 1895. And the remarkable thing about that, Sham, is that was the sign from the Master that as far as the Master was concerned, his work was done. The remarkable thing is that Vivekananda stayed another 7 years to continue the work in the West and to build up the order, the Ramakrishna order, and the influence of the order in India. Constantly encouraging Brahmananda to expand, to travel, establish new centers, expand centers that were already existing. If you read Swamiji's letters, there's a lot of that. He was constantly exhorting Brahmananda to. So he didn't need to stay beyond. He could have left during that Nirikalpa realization. He could have simply left at that point. But he stayed another 7 years out of his own sweet will. And then on July 4th, 1902, he left of his own sweet will. So it's quite a remarkable story. And anyone among us who's not read the inspired talks, oh boy, read the inspired talks. It's Swamiji, just when the word inspired is used. I mean, he is just a fountain. He's fireworks. He's just, he was so powerful that Mrs. Dutcher, who was a Methodist, the woman who owned the house in which they were meeting, she left because it was just too much for her. It was just too much for her. She, of course, told everyone else to stay and, have their meeting. But Mrs. Dutcher actually left. Swamiji was in such a mood. So if you read the inspired talks, yeah, I think almost all of you, if not all of you, have the complete works because of the recent readings from the complete works. So just take a look at, you don't have to buy a book. You can find it right there in the complete works. Anything else? Okay, it's a few minutes after 9. We'll wind it up. Holy Mother, hear our prayer. Holy Mother, you know our hearts. You know our lives. May we come to you in love and humility and seek the blessed, soothing solace of your feet. May we offer ourselves at your feet. May we take our handkerchief and mentally reach out and touch your feet. May we find you. May you return our love as you do 1,000-fold. We ask this in the Master's name. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. And if you want pictures of Mother, you can go to the St. Louis website and order them there. There's a great variety of wonderful pictures of all of the Master and all of the direct disciples and Mahendranath Gupta M. It's a powerful picture of him. So, any last words from anyone? All right.
Our present Prime Minister Modi ji
Yes?
tried to get into the Ramakrishna mission 3 times. Once at Gurmat, once at Almora, and once in Ahmedabad. All 3 Swamis said, no, you have something else to do.
Well, they certainly were right, weren't they?
Yes,
He's done it.
yes.
And may the masters and Swamiji's and Mother's blessings be all over him.
Yes.
That he act with courage and wisdom, and all of the traits of a great Kshatriya. Doesn't matter to what caste he was to what caste he was born. As Swamiji said, we are the caste that we act as. So he told some Brahmins in India that they acted more like Shudras than Brahmins. And that some of the Westerners that they were accusing him of teaching, sharing these eternal secrets with, he said, those people behave more like Brahmins than you do. So we mustn't be contained by any upadhi. Yes.
Share something. Although, I mean, I guess listening to Swamiji live would have been, indescribable. But I'm reading this book, Seeing Beyond the Circle, and the last chapter is entitled Privilege. And it is just so powerful. I can't even begin to summarize. Especially nowadays with all this injustices going on, and talk about different privileges.
Yes.
He defines privilege. I mean, he just nails it. It's just
Oh yes.
so good.
He finds it odious. He finds it odious, like a stink in the nostrils. So, good night, all you wonderful people. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. Go in Mother's loving and protective embrace in this dreadful time that we're living through. May Mother protect you. May Mother shelter you. May Mother give you peace of mind. Good night, dears.
Brother Shankara.
Night.
Good night, Kat. Good night, all.
Mm.
Mm.